LeBron to Philly fallout, Beal Tatum reunion buzz, and the Pritchard extension fight. Celtics fans, we need to talk. Because in the span of about 12 hours, the entire landscape of the Eastern Conference just got turned upside down. And Boston is suddenly staring at a villain they never expected to see wearing a Philadelphia jersey. If you're new here, welcome to Celtics Daily Hub, the channel that breaks down every trade, every rumor, every front office decision affecting this franchise. Today, we've got three massive stories to get through. A stunning free agency bombshell that changes everything for Boston's path to the finals, a red-hot rumor about a familiar face reuniting with Jayson Tatum, and a brewing contract standoff that could define how the Celtics operate under this new, brutal salary cap system. Smash that subscribe button, drop a comment with your take before you even finish watching, and let's get into it, because story number one is as big as it gets. Breaking: LeBron James signs with Philadelphia 76ers. Let's start with the story that's blowing up every NBA timeline in America right now. LeBron James has picked his next and possibly final destination, and it is not what anyone in Boston wanted to see. James announced the decision himself, posting that he believes he can help turn the Philadelphia 76ers into a championship team, and that he's excited to bring his farewell tour to a brand new fan base. He also took a moment to thank the Lakers, said he'll always love his time in Miami, and made sure everyone knew Northeast Ohio will forever be home. It's a full-circle, storybook kind of announcement, for Sixers fans anyway. For the Celtics, this is a five-alarm fire. Here's why this matters so much. Boston already knew they had a mountain to climb this season after the Jaylen Brown trade reshaped the roster around optionality, general manager speak for financial flexibility instead of star power. Now, the team that Brown got traded, T.O., just got dramatically better, and Boston has to watch him line up against them in a Sixers jersey that also happens to include LeBron James. Think about what Philadelphia's starting five could look like. Tyrese Maxey running the point, rookie standout VJ Edgecombe, Jaylen Brown at the wing, LeBron James at forward, and Joel Embiid anchoring the middle whenever his body allows him to suit up. On paper, that's an absolutely loaded lineup. That's a team that, at least statistically, has now leapfrogged Boston in the East's pecking order and turned Philadelphia into a legitimate title contender overnight. But, and this is the part Celtics fans need to hang on to for a little bit of hope, on paper and in reality are two very different things. Let's talk defense first. Embiid isn't the rim-protecting force he was a few years back, and he's a year older now, which means more nights off and less lateral quickness when he is out there. LeBron, at this stage of his career, isn't walling off drives the way he used to either. Maxey has never been mistaken for a defensive stopper. Teams have hunted him in switches for years. That leaves Jaylen Brown as arguably Philly's best individual defender. But Brown himself has had moments of miscommunication on the back line historically. This isn't a defensive juggernaut. It's a scoring machine with real questions about whether it can get stops when it matters in a 7-game series. Then there's the locker room question. And honestly, this might be the juiciest storyline of all. Jaylen Brown spent 10 years in Boston, and by his own account, his favorite part of last season was getting the chance to lead a young Celtics roster that overachieved. He was stepping into a leadership role. He was becoming the guy. Now he's walking into a locker room with Joel Embiid, the franchise cornerstone, and LeBron James, a player who, let's be honest, has a well-documented history of dominating the culture and hierarchy of every locker room he's ever entered. So who's the alpha in Philadelphia? Is it Embiid, the former MVP who's been the face of the franchise for a decade? Is it LeBron, arguably the greatest player of this generation? Or does Brown, who just got a chance to finally lead his own team, get pushed right back into a secondary role the moment he arrives? It's entirely possible everyone sacrifices ego for a championship push. Superstars have done it before. But it's just as possible this turns into a game of chicken, where each guy is quietly waiting for the other two to take the bigger step back. And when you throw in Embiid's extensive injury history and LeBron's need for load management at this stage of his career, you've got a recipe where health status alone could determine who's actually running that locker room on any given night. Brown has seen a Boston locker room implode before. Anyone remember the Kyrie Irving era? He's got the scar tissue to navigate turbulence if it comes. But he's also spent years in one of the most stable, championship-caliber cultures in the league. Any dysfunction in Philadelphia is going to be a jarring adjustment. Bottom line, on talent alone, the Sixers might now be the best team in the Eastern Conference. But paper championships don't count for anything in June. Boston's front office has to be watching this situation extremely closely, because if Philadelphia's superstar trio fractures even a little bit, that door back into title contention swings right back open for the Celtics. Drop a comment. Does LeBron to Philly scare you? Or do you think the fit is way messier than the box score suggests? I want to hear it. Report: Celtics could be a landing spot for Bradley Beal. Okay, story number 2, and this one's got a much different flavor. This is about friendship, history, and whether the Celtics might make a sneaky roster addition that has nothing to do with basketball fit on paper and everything to do with a bond that goes back to childhood. According to NBA insider Jake Fisher, the Celtics should not be ruled out as a landing spot for free agent Bradley Beal. And the reasoning isn't complicated. It all comes down to Beal's relationship with Jayson Tatum. This friendship goes back decades. Beal and Tatum are both St. Louis natives who grew up practically in the same neighborhood, and they even attended the same high school, Chaminade. Beal, who's about 5 years older, actually mentored a young Tatum before he became the superstar we know today. Beal's own mother reportedly used to drive both of them to school back when Beal was a senior and Tatum was still in 7th grade. That's the kind of history you can't manufacture. Tatum was even at Beal's wedding last summer. The two have talked for years about how cool it would be to actually play together, and the closest they ever came was both making Team USA's roster for the Tokyo Olympics. But Beal had to pull out before the tournament due to health protocols and never got that chance. Now, with Beal a free agent after opting out of his deal with the Clippers, the door is technically open. Fisher reported that Miami has some interest, but he specifically said not to rule out Boston because of the Tatum connection, adding that he asked around and was told the same thing. Here's the reality check, though, and it's an important one. Beal is 33 years old and coming off a season that was essentially wiped out by a hip injury. He played just 6 games for the Clippers before shutting it down. He hasn't played a full, healthy 60-plus game season since 2018 to 2019. His scoring numbers, which used to be elite, we're talking multiple 30-point-per-game seasons back during his Washington days, have fallen off a cliff. Last year, he was averaging single digits in limited minutes. Financially, this wouldn't be a stretch for Boston at all. Given the Celtics' current cap situation after the Jaylen Brown trade, any Beal deal would likely come in at the veteran's minimum or through the biannual exception, pocket change in NBA terms. So the risk, financially, is basically non-existent. The real risk is on the health and fit side. Can Beal even stay on the floor? And if he does, is he a rotation piece who can genuinely help? Or is this more of a feel-good story that ends up being cap filler? There's also a fair question about whether this is the right timing for Boston to be adding a low-efficiency, high-mileage veteran while they're still figuring out their new identity post-Brown trade. But you cannot ignore the emotional angle here. After the Jaylen Brown situation, where a lot of fans and media felt Tatum didn't publicly go to bat hard enough to keep his longtime co-star in Boston, bringing in Beal, his childhood friend and one of his closest confidants in the entire league, would be a pretty clear signal from the front office that they're trying to make Tatum happy and give him a support system he trusts. Is it a move that wins you a championship on its own? Almost certainly not. But in a league where relationships and locker room chemistry matter as much as they ever have, don't be shocked if Brad Stevens picks up the phone on this one. If you're a Celtics fan, are you excited about a potential Beal signing, or does his injury history make this feel like a low-value gamble? Let me know down below. Payton Pritchard extension. What should Boston offer? All right, story number 3, and this one is pure front office chess. It doesn't have the headline-grabbing shock value of LeBron going to Philly, but for Celtics fans who care about the long-term health of this roster, this might actually be the most important story of the 3. With Jordan Walsh and Neemias Queta already locked up on new deals this summer, the last major piece of Boston's off-season business is figuring out what to do with Payton Pritchard. Pritchard is entering year 3 of a 4-year, $30 million contract that, at this point, is one of the biggest bargains in the entire NBA. He won 6th Man of the Year 2 seasons ago, and last season he averaged 17.4 points and 5.2 assists a game while playing a critical role in Boston's 56-win season. Starting October 1st, he becomes eligible for a max extension worth 3 years and $67 million. Sounds simple, right? Just pay the guy. Except it's not that simple anymore, because the new collective bargaining agreement has completely changed how front offices have to think about money. Here's the case for why Boston might actually want to play hardball. Pritchard turns 29 in the middle of this upcoming season and 30 the season after that. A new extension would cover his age 31, 32, and 33 seasons. And historically, smaller guards, Pritchard is listed at 6'1", do not age gracefully once they hit their 30s. He plays an aggressive, downhill style, constantly attacking bigger defenders in the paint, which is exactly the kind of play style that tends to wear down quickly once athleticism starts to fade. There's also the league-wide financial picture to consider. Fewer teams are operating with real cap space right now, and exactly 0 teams are currently projected to spend into the second tax apron next season. That scarcity of cap room actually works in Boston's favor. If fewer teams can offer Pritchard a big contract in open free agency down the road, Boston has real leverage to negotiate a lower number now. And then there's that word the Celtics front office keeps hammering home all summer: optionality. After using it to justify trading away Jaylen Brown, team president Brad Stevens has made it clear that flexibility is the priority going forward. A max-level Pritchard contract in the $20 million-plus range is harder to move in a trade than a smaller deal, and it eliminates the ability to package him into another team's mid-level or trade exception down the road. So, what's the actual proposal on the table? One respected Celtics beat voice suggested Boston should offer a contract starting around the projected mid-level exception for that 2028 to 29 season, somewhere in the neighborhood of $16.6 million in year 1, which would land the total deal closer to $54 million over 3 years, instead of the full $67 million max. He even floated the idea of adding a 4th year as a trade-off for Pritchard accepting less money up front. Now, is that a tough pill to swallow for a guy who's been criminally underpaid relative to his production the last 2 seasons? Absolutely. It tosses aside any sentimental "he's earned it" argument in favor of cold, hard business logic. But here's the other side of the coin, the side that argues Pritchard actually holds more leverage than people think. If he doesn't sign now and instead waits to hit unrestricted free agency, he's no longer capped at that 140% veteran extension formula. He'd be eligible for anything up to the full max, which is 30% of the salary cap. Sure, realistically, he's probably not getting the actual max on the open market, but his ceiling would be significantly higher than what an extension offers today. One NBA executive put it bluntly, with the cap and tax line both projected to keep climbing over the next 2 years, there's basically no financial reason for Pritchard to rush into a below-market extension right now. Security is nice, but if he's confident in his health, waiting could pay off in a big way. So you've essentially got two sides, both incentivized to play a little bit of hardball. Boston wanting to protect its long-term flexibility, and Pritchard potentially wanting to bet on himself in open free agency. The most likely outcome, according to most reporting, Boston ends up offering the full 3-year, $67 million deal, and Pritchard takes it, because it's the path of least risk for both sides. But don't be shocked if these negotiations drag out and get a little tense before we get there. Would you rather Boston pay Pritchard the full max now, or take the risk of losing some leverage by waiting him out? Sound off in the comments, I read every single one. So there you have it, 3 stories that, together, paint a pretty clear picture of where this Celtics team stands heading into the new season. LeBron just made the Eastern Conference dramatically tougher by joining forces with Embiid, Maxey, and Boston's former franchise cornerstone in Jaylen Brown. There's a real, credible rumor that Boston could add some Tatum-approved veteran depth in Bradley Beal. And behind the scenes, the front office is working through one of the most important financial decisions of their offseason with Payton Pritchard. None of these stories exist in a vacuum. They're all part of the same bigger question. Can this Celtics team, now built around optionality instead of a 2-star core, actually compete in a conference that just got a whole lot scarier? That's everything shaking up Celtics Nation right now. Drop your take in the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe with notifications on, because this offseason is moving fast, and you don't want to miss what's next. This has been Celtics Daily Hub. I'll see you in the next one.